what's up, Christian Metal Group? We're here with one of our ministry partners. This is Christian Sullivan. He's with the Metal Onslaught. We got Jay down here. He's like the Grandmaster Flash of metal. He does it all. Uh, what you want to say, Jay?
You know what? It's a great time to be alive. We're
Right.
already in, the third month of the year. Who knows when y'all will be seeing this, but at the time of this recording, we're in the third month of the year. It's just good to be blessed by God, honestly. And I mean that both, all of us as individuals with our families, and then also the Christian Metal Group overall. It's good to see the group growing, that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm a moderator, of course, and Jimmy is one of the admins, and this is an interview that's kind of been a long time coming. So looking forward to it.
Well, we're glad to be here. We love Jesus. We love metal.
Yes.
That's Christian metal, man.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
in Christian metal, we have Christian Sullivan. So it was predestined.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. Yeah, I get that.
So Christian, I hear you're a bit of a world traveler. So give us just a brief history, where you're born and grew up, and how you got to where you are now.
Okay, well, I'm originally from a place called Geraldton, which is in the central coast of Western Australia.
Okay.
I was born there, raised down in the southwest near Perth, in West Australia.
Okay.
And then moved to South Australia at the age of 19, where I got to hang out with the guys from Etherall Scourge and Virgin Black and all those guys. So that's because at that time I was still heavily into Christian heavy metal then. Then back in 2008, I moved to England. Was there for 13 years. Met Danelle, my beautiful wife, via a Facebook troll, which only yesterday was our seventh year anniversary of that troll introducing us. And then then we were in a long distance relationship marriage for about 5 of those years, and moved here to Southern California, just outside of Los Angeles, about almost 2 years ago, and here I am.
Yeah.
So where did she live when y'all met?
She lived here. She lived here in Southern California. So so I was based in England. She was based here. We tried to get her over to England with her daughter, and but the UK government was asking for something like $20,000 and a 5-year wait just for that to happen. And for us, it only cost me $2,000 to get my visa, and it took me 12 months.
Wow.
There you go.
It's pretty special, man.
So now we know a woman brought him to California.
Absolutely. Well, actually, no. Like, I actually have to say, like, it's actually the Father in heaven that who got me here, because he put the stops for me going over there. So it's regardless what everyone people say about California, I understand the whole political landscape. I understand all that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, God brought me here for a reason, and so I'm going to be making the most of it.
There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my favorite first question to ask is, how did you become a Christian? And then part two, how did you discover metal?
Okay, well, I'll probably start with, I became a Christian, I think I was about 11 or 12 years of age. But before that, even when we were growing up, when I was in single digits and all that, we would have a lot of spiritual encounters. Voices, moving things, all that kind of thing. And then, so I was already introduced to the spiritual realm at a young age. And then my mother was searching, and she decided to, she decided to go to a church and just check it out, kind of thing. So all of us as a family, we all went, apart from my dad. I don't think my dad really cared too much about the church, even though now he's a born again believer. So we all went, and it was it was part of the Foursquare movement. So it was, I remember the old cold building, and there was no heating and all that kind of thing. But before we ended up going to church, I was already getting into metal anyway. I was already listening to Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, and sort of a lot of the older bands, even early Metallica and Megadeth, and So I was already into metal, sort of getting into that way inclined, and then even good old Poison back in the day. Gotta love good old Poison.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And then when I gave my heart to the Lord at the age of 12,
Oh wow.
I I was getting into metal, so I thought, well, what is there that I can listen to that's Christian, because I don't want to listen to that because that's all of the world and satanic kind of thing. It's not it's not cool. I got introduced to the Resurrection Band, or Res, as it was known then, back in the late 80s. We went on there's a ship that was traveling around the world called the Doulos. I'm not too sure whether or not Doulos is around these days, but when they were visiting in the port of where I was growing up in Bunbury of Western Australia, went on there, saw the Christian bookshop. There was a bookshop on there because it was a big Christian vessel, and I found a cassette tape for the Resurrection Band, Silent Screams, and I went,
Wow.
I'll get that, and got into it, and I saw advertising for Ex Sinner and all this, and I'm like, yeah, man, like, yeah, my heavy metal, I like heavy metal and rock and stuff. I really like this, and that's how I got into Christian metal.
That's so awesome. I've never heard of a traveling Christian bookstore with metal. So that's a first for me. That's
Especially
awesome.
on a big, massive ship. It's a
Yeah.
big, massive cruise ship. It was as well. So.
I mean, I guarantee you're the only person I've ever going to meet that said that's how they discovered a Christian metal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
awesome.
So, yeah, but I mean, but at that particular time, I was, instead of just listening to your 80s stuff, I was getting heavy. I was around the time when I was getting heavier and heavier and heavier. I wanted more extreme, more extreme, more extreme. So I was listening to black metal back in '93. So when the likes of like sort of when all of those bands were starting out, especially like with Venom and they're not more black metal, they're sort of more death metal, but sort of more like your Emperors and because Emperor was like the very first ever internationally successful black metal band back then. So it was a lot of those guys, even Mayhem, even the early Mayhem stuff. That's what sort of got me into it. But it was actually Horde was my very first ever Christian black metal
Okay.
band I ever heard.
I'm not a huge black metal fan, but there's some like I'll listen to some Horde. Yeah. Good stuff. So that's awesome, man. That's a really cool story. Going through all this, are you a musician? Have you ever been in a band?
I've dabbled. I used to be a vocalist many years ago. So I was, out of all of the secular bands or any of the bands from the world that I was really fully into, I still am to this day, is a band called Faith No More. They were one of my biggest ever. Like I'm a big fanboy of them. That's my biggest band. I don't listen to much of their music anymore because obviously they don't really do very much anymore, and they broke up for a long time. But Mike Patton's vocal delivery was what I absolutely loved. Like he was just great. Like even now he still is a great vocalist. So I thoroughly love that. But I was also getting into extreme metal too. So I've only been in a band in sort of what you call sort of practice stages, and that's it. So with one of the guys from Discarnated / Embodiment 1214 kind of thing, he was the guitarist for this band and stuff. So we did sort of very much like a Zayo kind of thing back in the early to mid 2000s.
Nice.
Sort of especially with that kind of vocal delivery, doing the black metal vocals and a mixture in with that kind of thing. So we could probably say that we were trying it out before any of those kind of bands got big. So it's which was fun. It was really cool, but I never really did anything serious with it. So even though my wife Danelle says I should be, because she's heard me sing and she says, dude, you should really need to record and be in a band. I'm like, I just don't want to. I'd rather support people. I'd rather support them rather than actually being in a band myself. So
sure, that's fair.
Yes, that support, that's actually goes to my next question. So, of course, because you didn't want to do that, but you wanted to be involved in some way. So, what happened next? I know you seem to have been involved in a bunch of different things, like from like journalism to even, didn't you release some stuff? Like, did you?
Um, well, I mean, was it there was a actually it was really funny because there's only been one recorded single that I've actually have had me recorded in, and I've actually played it on Facebook. I actually put it on Facebook and said, "Have a listen to this. This is a bit of fun, a bit of banter." So so they can hear what I sounded like back in those days. Plus, also too, I also released some compilation
Mhm.
records, just mainly digital downloads, but it was mainly just to support the bands and just give them a bit of a nudge
Right,
and say, look,
right.
guys, if you want to listen to their music, it's free. It's go and check it out. And because because a lot of these guys I really wanted to see do well and wanted to see do better and get more listeners. So it's always the best way to go to do that, especially through Meltdown as well.
Mhm.
I was involved with, I still sort of am involved with that ministry over in the United Kingdom, which is a Christian metal ministry, which has been going now for about 35 years now.
Oh wow.
Um, yep, they were the longest running Christian music event because they used to do like a yearly event on a weekend. Um, and it was because of COVID that they sort of had to stop. But they were the longest running in the world. So it's
Wow.
so that's
Wow.
where I
So
got to
that
meet a
that
lot.
predates Sanctuary.
It does.
Yeah.
It
So are
Wow.
does.
they
Yeah,
can
yeah. There's been
so if they're in Europe, are they connected with the Metal Bible over there?
yeah, I've met Johannes. I've met him once.
Okay.
He came to Meltdown one year.
Nice.
Um, so I got to meet him, and he's a really, really nice guy. I've
Yeah.
invited
He's
like I've already invited him over. I said, dude,
yeah,
if you come to California,
for
I said,
sure.
mate, we'll house you up and we'll look after you. So he's
He's
a
a
wonderful.
ministry partner as well. And we did an interview with him a while back. He has
Yeah,
a very incredible striper collection. It is
He
he
does.
does.
Yeah.
it's
He
pretty
does.
He
amazing.
does. He's huge on that.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
but yeah, I mean, I've associated with a lot of the ministries over there, especially when it comes to whether it be bands or even things like Metal Bible, and even with the guys over at Christian Metal Heads International with Honoric and Jeanette Larson. I've met them a few times, and they're absolutely lovely people too. They're absolutely lovely. Um, but I mean, but these days Jeanette's more focused on work wise, where sort of like, and so they're more focused on surviving than actually, being real active when it comes to the metal things like that. But that's nothing on them. I mean, that's well, they still are working behind the scenes that were things that we don't know about, things like that. So it's but they're doing great though, and I love those guys, absolute to bits. So
So Christian, you run the Metal Onslaught. What is
yeah.
that and how did it get started?
Okay, well, the Metal Onslaught is an online magazine, which I began actually in England quite a few years ago. I think it was 2000. I think it was it was nearing the end of 2016, August really actually. So mid 16. It was a much more lengthier title. It was really funny because it was sort of I wanted something just to say like that, and then I suddenly realized that the length of it was just unstupidly big. I think it was like worldwide Christian hard music and metal onslaught kind of thing. It
Oh
was like
wow.
it
Yeah.
was that huge,
Yeah.
and it just started out as a blog, and then um, when I moved out of the house I was living with my ex partner at the time, we weren't even together at that particular moment. I was just a housemate, but everything all turned to pot, so everything turned really bad. So when I eventually started living on my own, um, actually in staff house because I used to live in a house which was owned by the owners of the hotel that I used to manage. So I was able to live there with a few other guys, but but the time was my own. So I decided, you know what, I want to, like, like England doesn't have a magazine that focuses purely on Christian heavy music. So I thought, why don't I be the place to go to here in the UK so I can outreach to people and they can come to me and know what's going on. Same with the store as well. I started becoming a wholesaler, so I'd like a retailer, I should say, rather. So I was being a retailer for European people and even around across the UK. And that was before I noticed that there was a ministry called Nordic Mission,
Yep.
which were much on a much more bigger scale than what I was. So I couldn't really compete with them as such. So I still kept with it though. I still kept with it and tried to do what I could do with it. But yeah, so I just, yes, I started in England. I did all that, just writing articles and whatnot. I also worked extremely long hours when I was working in hotels, and I was like, at one stage I was working 18 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Oh, man.
So I would find that my commitment to the magazine wasn't as much as I would like. It's a little bit like that even now, especially when you're juggling family and work and everything like that. So it's but I'm finding that I'm being more focused these days and getting that done. And then we also decided to almost 2 years, about a year and a half ago, we decided to launch our own radio station as well on the website Live 365. Just because we thought, well, we didn't really see anyone else doing it. So we thought, well, hey, look, why don't we launch ourselves a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week radio station and just play Christian music all week. And we got Pastor Bob on there as well. He Pastor Bob daily. We've got him playing every day, and then we have we've got teachings on a Sunday in between music and things like that. So we do have pastors' messages on a Sunday, and then obviously we've got our own shows, like my own, and also David Priest as well, the metal priest, and even got one of our good friends, Newt from from Austria, Pure Steel. He's over there on a radio station over there, like not online, but actually on a proper radio station. But no one can hear him over here, so we play his show on our radio station as well. So
that's so awesome. The technology, people from around the world can come together on one station. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. So I thoroughly enjoy doing what I do.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, a lot of ministries, what we've seen as far as our group, Christian metal group, we've seen a lot of ministries like cater to Christian audiences, and then a lot are catered to like almost exclusively secular audiences. And then we do have some that are in the middle that do both, and then sometimes the ones that cater to Christians like fight with the ones that don't cater to Christians. So we've seen that with a lot of ministries, and also a lot of bands too, of course. And we may talk about the band aspect, but just from your aspect first and foremost, what was most important to you with starting Metal Onslaught? Was it more so like giving Christians I guess like doing things from a Christian perspective, so to speak, and catering to Christians when it comes to journalism, when it comes to like news and stuff, or
I was I wanted to outreach to the secular crowd, and I wanted to, but also too, like because Christians know what is a Christian, what Christian is like if a Christian who's into heavy music sees the band or hears it, they know who they are because they're in the scene. The guys in the secular realm, they don't.
Right.
But also to I always try to make it a habit that I actually try to write like a secular magazine. So we write like a secular magazine without obviously the bad language. We don't, and plus we absolutely refuse to publicize any gossip. Like we don't you
I
know,
love
like,
that.
oh, you know, this, you know, and we'll use, we use Striper, for example, especially when it came to when Tim left the band. You know, like, you know, everyone was throwing stones at Tim and everyone was throwing stones at Michael and all this kind of stuff. And for me, it was sort of like, you know, the only thing I would say was like, well, Tim left the band,
Hmm.
you know, but I wouldn't go into the details. I wouldn't go into the whole gossip kind of thing because I just don't think it's acceptable, really, because
Yeah.
they're still human beings at the end of the day, and you know, and there's a lot of people hurting out there too, you know, and so especially those guys. So it's so I just deem it unfair that if we do, you know, like if we did things like that, including announcements of people's deaths as well, especially
Wow.
with Michael Bloodgood, and you know,
Yeah.
and you know, like I never met Michael, but we're close friends with Les Carlson and all that kind of thing. So, but you know, Michael was actually really nice enough before he passed away to do a radio station ID. And
Oh,
you know,
nice.
hello, this is Michael Bloodgood from Bloodgood, and you're listening to the
Yeah.
Metal Onslaught Radio. You know, and it
Amazing.
was so he was very kind to do that for me a few months before he passed away. So it was you know, so I still have that playing now. You know, it's that,
Yeah,
but we
of
don't,
course.
but we don't cover people passing away. I know a couple of the guys that have written for the magazine or who still do from time to time have done that, which I've still kept it up. But myself personally, I don't really want to, you know, like unless it was, you know, like unless we were saying, look, you know, like unless it was more of a tribute kind of thing, we say, look, you know, this is our tribute to say Ted Kirkpatrick and
Right.
all that
I
kind of thing
understand
for what
that.
he's done, kind of thing. So you know, so we've done it that way, and the only way, the way that we did it with that, with that particular instance, was when Aaron decided to say that that Tourniquet was completely over. So we used that news
Yeah.
to, you know, to send our tribute over to Ted and everything like that, and also giving a tribute to everyone that was part of the band at certain points in life and things. So we did a big, massive list of who was actually involved. I think it was actually you, Jay, that told me, "Oh, hang on, I don't think this person's in
Yeah. Oh,
the
yeah.
band." I remember that. I'm like, oh.
That's funny.
Oh,
I
yeah.
sure did, man. I don't know. That's funny. I'm gonna tell you, you said something that was so key, that I just love, and I already said I love it, but I just want to highlight it again, just because you know you were like gossip, is just out of order, and I think you know obviously we're in the group, and there's like you know quite a few thousands of people, tens of thousands of people in the group, and you already know there's always almost every day we're gonna find somebody trying to you know, they think they're the news. So they try to bring this news, and a lot of times it's hearsay or whatever. And I
Yeah.
joke a lot of times in the group and say, yeah, y'all trying to be TMZ, right? The Christian TMZ right now, or whatever, you know. It's just, you know, it does get kind of ridiculous. And, you know, obviously the Bible warns us against gossip. So,
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was really funny though. I think someone had posted a post. It was like, you know, and it was actually for a legitimate Christian publication, who now do an online one, and I think they did a whole news story based on how Dale Thompson was with the guys from Striper,
yeah.
and because obviously they toured Australia, and a few of my friends know them over there and things like that. So it was quite funny because I commented and I turned and said, I don't really deem this newsworthy. However, it's really great to see old friends catching up and meeting together. I just think it's the most beautiful thing.
Well, we can.
And a couple of,
Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying we can appreciate you not being the Christian TMZ. Well, you know, we can appreciate that.
yeah, absolutely. And then this lady changed, and like the two people were shocked, and this woman said, "Oh, well, we can obviously tell. No, we can obviously tell that you're young." And
Gosh.
I just burst out laughing, and I just laughed, and I commented and said, "Well, actually, quite frankly, the opposite." I said, "I grew up with Striper, and I grew up with Bright,
Yeah.
even back in the early days stuff, you know." And I turned around and said, "I've been a fan of their music for many, many years, but I on a personal level, especially being from a publication myself, I don't deem this as newsworthy to put as an article. It's
Sure.
more of a, it's
some people are just fishing for content. There's like, oh, what can I put? Just
like
like,
I know that. Yeah, like, I know that feeling. I've done that a few
so
times. I'm there thinking, I won't say that.
do you remember what the first article you wrote was for your blog with a
Oh
ridiculously
man,
long name?
I honestly don't know
You don't remember?
when. No, I don't remember. I mean,
Okay.
it was actually, I think I do actually. It was based on Christian metal and talking about Christian metal and
Just a
how Christian
scene.
metal was of the devil and all this kind of thing, and using it as a way of saying that, you know what, we're in ministry, there's people out there that, who actually who love the Lord, who love Jesus, who but also love heavy music, and so we use it as a tool
Yeah,
to reach,
absolutely.
and there's also a lot of people out there that I know that are in the Christian heavy music industry that were completely against Christian heavy music at the very beginning, and until suddenly God called them and said, "I want you to do this." They're like, "What, Lord? What do you mean?"
I mean, and why should the devil have all the good music, right?
There we go.
Exactly, but
There we
remember,
go.
God, God created it all. It's just
There you
like so but the devil can only like he can only like he can only counterfeit.
go.
He can't actually
Nice.
So that's the way I look at it. It's a bit like, it's a lot of the time when I hear that now, oh, you shouldn't be listening to Christian, you shouldn't be listening to heavy metal music, it's of the devil. Really? I said, have you seen some of the rap in hip hop and pop that you see on the freaking on the news waves like that? You're telling me that's not satanic?
Yeah.
I mean, come on now.
Right.
I'll tell you, it's interesting. Like, I know with hip hop for sure, it's funny. I was watching. I'm not gonna name any ministries here, but I will say it's rarely available on YouTube, so it's definitely not gossip. But there was a preacher that was like, well, we've heard for years about how satanic metal is, and so we already know to stay away from that. Like that's basically what he was insinuating. Of course, I was like, this was bull already. But then he proceeds for sure to go into like the hip hop artists, and he kind of starts tying everything into like the Illuminati and stuff. And this is like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, the Illuminati is just
a lot of conspiracy theories everywhere that go along with music. Heavy metal, of course, has been full of symbolism and especially in art and logos and stuff like that. So
absolutely,
it makes them an easy target for I guess the people that are conspiracy theorists when it comes to, hey, it's a symbol. Somebody threw up a triangle. There's a triangle on the artwork. It's Illuminati.
Yeah.
I remember even This Means War, dude, like as far back as This Means War, there was like a Petra, like what was it, like 87. I remember that was like my first CD, and then all of a sudden, like I saw some religious guy from my church, and of course I was like super young, but he was like, there's an eye and there's a light. There's like the cloud, like almost formed the eye. There's like a light shine there. I said, see, that's Illuminati. So it like even that far back, man.
Wow.
Conspiracy theories and things have always transpired. Okay, so actually, that was But okay, so the next thing I'm thinking about is, so of course, you started your ministry by yourself or whatever, or with if you whatever. But so I know you have some staff writers now. How many people do you actually have working with you now?
Just myself.
Oh, so it is yourself.
I'm the only one that basically does all the writing these days.
Okay, cool.
David Priest does from the odd occasion. He mainly interviews and does things with people who he already knows and people who he's already close with. He does do his weekly show on the station every Saturday night. He religiously does that. I mean, literally, he's more committed to that than I'm actually doing my own show. But he's he's a great guy, and I love him to bits. He's one of my closest friends. I mean, everyone else, I've had people that are like, yeah, we want to do this, and I say to them, cool, do you know how to write in WordPress? No, we don't. Can you teach us? And it's like, I can do, but then obviously with my dedication to my job, and obviously because living in California is not cheap. Anyway, so it's sort of like, so you're trying to work as much as you can, earn as much as you can, support your family, plus obviously trying to keep your Christian walk intact with your time with the Lord. And then obviously you've got to put all the music aspect all into that, and especially when I'm doing the station and the magazine, and
right,
and then I've got to have family too. I've got family time,
yes, sir.
so it's
Yes, sir.
so
So
it's
if somebody came to you now, if you had 2 or 3 writers, that knew how to write in Word or help with the radio station, would
yes,
you be open to that?
yes, oh absolutely, yeah.
So
I've
here
already
we
asked.
are. Thousands of people are going to watch this and listen to
Yeah.
it. So if you're serious and you know how to write in Word and you know how to do the
In
radio
Word, like in
station,
WordPress.
Let's
in
go.
WordPress, sorry, in WordPress in English, reach out to Christian, and
Yeah.
hey, maybe there's a spot. Maybe y'all can
Yeah,
work
and
together.
also to you guys that are watching this, that who did reach out to me, and I said I was going to teach you, and promise I'm really sorry, guys. I do sincerely apologize. It wasn't intentional. Just lack of time and focusing on, like I said before, family and my own walk with God and with work and everything like that. It's just like it can be a struggle. It can be a real big struggle, especially when you're trying to keep up with everything.
So, on your radio station, you said it's been about a year and a half.
Yes.
What's your criteria for bands and music to be on that show?
We cover anything Christian heavy music orientated.
Does that include Skillet? When you're talking about heavy music, we're trying to define a line here.
Okay, so Skillet's
good.
probably the weakest. Skillet's probably the weakest that we have.
Okay.
So it's sort of like, but we have Skillet on there mainly because we want to attract that kind of audience. We want them to be introduced to other bands and other artists. So we have them played, and then we go all the way through from punk, hard rock, ska, even some alternative stuff, even some of the old alternative grunge, even all the way up to black metal. So
nice. So you really do play it all. That's awesome.
Yes, and also to about 2 or 3 times a day, we've got a playlist that plays all the new music. So all the new singles that have been released over the last few days, they're already on. Oh
wow!
They are already on there playing on the station.
So I guess when I'm asking about criteria, I'm like, where do you draw the line? So will you play Sweet Lynch? Will you play the new Wasp, Megadeth?
Well, what we do, I mean, with secular bands, we try not to, unless it's actually David Priest actually had done this with his own show, where he played where he had Creeping Death from Metallica, which is basically based on Moses, kind of thing, of that time. So, and then also to also the band, just trying to think of even Testament, where they actually had a song that was actually, it's like, even though they're a secular band, it's actually a Christian song. It's actually based off the Bible, it's certain Bible, Bible and stuff, and there's no cussing or anything. There's no bad language or anything like that. It's just literally just singing about the verses of the Bible. So to us, we don't mind playing those kind of songs, kind of thing.
Again, it reaches a wider audience, right?
So
it can
absolutely.
Help. And another one that
Sweet
comes
and Lynch,
to mind,
I don't mind either.
Yeah, Halloween. That's another one that comes to mind. It's a lot of spiritual themes in their music.
Yeah, so absolutely. I mean, I was a big fan of Halloween back in the early days. So it's my wife, I think we've still got all the albums. We've got the whole collection.
Nice.
And things like that. So we, keep it this, keep it this 7 keys, all that kind of thing. So we, so we really love that stuff. I have toyed with the idea of actually starting to put some secular music on there, just so we can try to entice more people to listen. But we've thought, maybe not, because we want to be a Christian
Yeah,
station.
yeah,
So it's, and instead of trying to forfeit to try to get much more many listeners, and
Mhm.
then only playing a few Christian bands, we rather just
Yeah.
make a strictly Christian and
Yeah,
and
just play
the
some
odd
Wasp
other.
and Alice Cooper, man. You're good, you know.
Yeah, well, I've got those guys already on there. I've got Wasp, I've got Alice Cooper, and I've got Sweet and Lynch, as I said, and also that one Metallica song and that one Testament song on
Yeah.
there.
Vomitoria Corpulence got to
And
go on there somewhere.
sorry,
Vomitoria Corpulence has to go on there somewhere, man.
yeah. Oh,
You remember them?
Hey,
Vomitoria Corpulence.
I have, yes,
Yeah, they're from Australia too, of course.
Oh,
yes, I know. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, I heard of those guys a long time ago.
Oh God, I know that was kind of way back, but yeah, they were probably one of the heaviest bands, by the way. Just for
really?
Jimmy, also they just to ever come out. Very
Yeah.
heavy content, brutal artwork, and just like vocals that were totally indecipherable. Gore grindcore, death
Yeah.
metal. I lived for it though when it came out, for real. I lived for
Yeah,
it.
man. No,
That is
absolutely, man.
that
That's
is
what it was
awesome.
back then. And like, I wasn't hugely into grindcore back then. It's
Mhm.
because I was
I
more
was
into
not.
sort of like,
I was not into grindcore then or now.
or now,
Like
unless
that.
it's good grindcore, I don't mind it.
I
And
haven't
there's
heard
actually
good
some bands on
grindcore.
here I'm like, that's actually really good.
I have not heard good grindcore. That's just me though.
That's funny. I just discovered that Mortification has released like some of their live footage and also some of their demos. So they just released like Scrolls of the
Yeah.
Megalon
Just
demo.
listening to
You
that
might posted that,
today.
yeah.
Yeah, on Spotify they released it. Yep.
So I actually went and listened to some of that. Actually, I listened to the live 1994 concert that they released. I guess a few days ago or whatever. I wanted to see how Phil Gibson, who he replaced Jason for a little bit. He played on Blood World.
Yes.
And I was very interested in how he was interpreting the songs on drums. So, it was
He
solid.
actually did extremely well, because that was the very first, because I've seen Mortification twice. I saw him once in Perth in Western Australia back in '94 during the Blood World tour. So I got to meet Phil, and obviously I met Michael, and obviously met Steve. So that's the photo of me like that, this little Phil like this, and then Steve doing this little pose kind of thing. Yeah. That was the Blood Good. So that was the Blood World tour. Went and saw them, and then I met Steve before and after cancer. So
Wow.
So I
Just
met
go
him
ahead
again in
go ahead and brag a little bit. That's
2001.
okay. That's all right. Rub it
I know.
in.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, Steve and those are my bros, man. That whole Mortification family, man.
Did you got to meet them too, Jay?
Yeah.
At some point?
Man. Yeah, of course, definitely.
Yeah,
Those are my dudes, man. Jason Sherlock is my bro. His family and my family. We're pretty close, man. I love them. Love them.
Yeah, he's a good man.
Hopefully
He's a good
you'll
man.
hear some music from us soon.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, we recorded some music with Soundscape, which is the band that Jason Duran from Paramecium did, and Jason's playing drums. I'm playing keys, so it's us three. And then also another guy from Mortification. He played around the time of, what is it, the Evil Addiction, or whatever that album is called, Destroying Machine or whatever. There was a guy named Chris that played guitar around that time, and him and Jason recorded a symphonic metal album a couple of years ago. So we're just waiting on Chris at this point, and to release it. But it's fully recorded. I think.
Okay.
Maybe. But yeah. So anyway, enough of that.
Cool, cool.
That actually is a good segue actually into my next question. So of course you've met a lot of people, and you've also talked to a lot of people. So It's like, doing journalism, or just even the stuff that we do, of course we get to talk with a lot of people that influenced us, inspired us, or whatever. Did you ever fanboy about anybody that you met or whatever? Or, how do you deal with that whole thing as far as meeting people that you kind of grew up with and that you were,
I
He just met you, Jay.
Oh no,
I know,
no,
I know.
no,
Like,
no.
before the interview, I was just telling him about how I was fanboying over the whole fact that I'll be, meeting you for the first time, after all these years, man. I mean, honestly,
Oh, man.
come on, man, it's Jay. Come on now.
Oh man,
Hey?
no, man, I'm nowhere near. That's so
But
funny.
that's a great question. But that is a great question. I I stopped fanboying for bands and artists back in the late 90s.
Mhm.
Um, I was like, I've been fortunate enough to meet quite a lot of people,
Yeah.
even beforehand, even before I started getting into things like that. So obviously, met Mortification back when I was like
Mhm.
17, and then got to meet a few people, and then I met the guys from Pantera back in the late 90s
Yeah.
twice in Australia. So I got to meet, obviously, Dimebag and all that kind of thing. But they're back in the Southern Trade Cool tour, um, but they were really nice guys. The first time I was like, man, it's Pedro, let's go and say hello, kind of thing. But then the second time, one of my friends were like, oh, that's Pantera. I went, yeah, it is, dude. I want to come and meet him. What? And it was in a local McDonald's in Adelaide, South Australia. So I said, yeah, dude, I'll go introduce you. And I came over and said, oh, hey guys, how you doing? Did you guys have a good show last night?
Mhm.
I went, yeah, dude, it was really good. And it was quite funny because Vince looked at me and he's there going, dude, man, do we know you, man? Did
That's
you
so
meet
funny.
last night at the show? I went, no, bro, no, we didn't, man. We met in Perth in Western Australia at the airport last time you came here
Mm.
on your last tour. He looked at me like that, and then both him and Dimebag looked at each other and went, Christian? I went, dude,
Oh
you remember
wow.
Oh,
that?
wow.
He's like, dude, like this, what the freaking hell,
Yeah.
2 years, kind of thing. And my mate's just like, George just dropped like, what? That's guys from Pantera.
That's awesome, man.
Crazy. So it was, and then obviously got to hang out with, a lot of the guys from, making a lot of noise there, sweetheart. No, I was the other one's coming.
Hi.
You gotta come on camera and say hi now.
No, she's cool. But then we got but then yeah, so I got to meet, and then I also got to meet a lot of like television stars in Australia and got to meet people, and then
Be honest.
then
Be honest here.
as that sorry.
I said, be honest with the metalheads here. Growing up in Australia before Mortification, did you fanboy over the Newsboys?
No, no, definitely
Okay.
definitely
Okay.
not.
I just had to ask. I just had to ask.
That's
Oh,
funny, bro.
Oh my God, it's Bill Cosby. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, no, I never did. I was never I was never a fan of the Newsboys. My sister was when we
Nice.
were growing up. She started. Yeah, she lives in Sydney, but she started a new job, and she's actually working with a guy that used to be in the Newsboys, back
Oh
in the
wow.
day. So
Yeah,
he, one of the old guys back before they,
yeah.
sold out for you guys over here in the States.
Oh my goodness. I feel a little okay. Well,
Yeah.
hey, let's we got a few minutes here left. Just wanted to ask a couple real quick questions. So, what are some of your favorite newer bands that you're into right now?
Oh man, there's a lot of really cool ones that I really like. So I think the guys from Brutality are really,
Yeah,
I think they're a really cool band. I've never
I dig
seen
them.
play live yet. I would love to.
Same.
I think for the guys at their age, I think they're doing exceptional work. And yeah, so watch out, guys, for them for when they start, when they keep on maturing and getting better over the
Mhm.
over time. There's a few other. Oh man, well, there's just so many. Well, there's actually a few. Like there's just so much music coming out right now, and
Yeah.
it's really hard to pinpoint who your favorite artists are, because I
In different genres too. Yeah.
well, yeah, because I've always see, that's the beauty about the way that of how I work, is the fact is I have heard so many different genres over the years. I've heard so many. I've lived through many of them, and I'm someone who dissects music. So I can hear everything. You know, even with John DeGroff when he brought out Salt on Rottweiler Records. When I reviewed his first album, when he did that, I did a review on it and I pulled it apart. And he's there going, dude, he said, out of everyone that's actually reviewed it, you're the only one that's actually pinpointed this, this, and this. And that's exactly what I was looking for.
That's
kind
awesome.
of thing. So it's, you know, so I've always, well, I mean, I would say I've always had an ear for music. I wouldn't be arrogant in saying that I was, you know, amazing at it. But I have been blessed with a bit of an ear. So I always sort of know what to look for when it comes to certain genres. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So the last thing is, how can the Christian Metal Group and the metal community, how can we help your ministry? What can we do to support you?
Support us. Well, with the radio station, guys, tune in. It's a live app. It's called Live 365. It's free for anyone from the US, the UK, and in Canada. All you got to do is just download it, and then you can find TMO Radio, and you'll find it on there, and you can do that, and just show your support and read the magazine and all that. And if you guys are willing to donate, there's a donate button there, and we never pressure anyone into doing that, but if you feel led to, then that's great. And again, if you're wanting to write with us, if you know how to use WordPress, and if you know and you've got a really good understanding about music, and not just on Christian music as a whole, but also with everything, then just get in touch, and we'll get you signed on, and you can write for us.
Man, that's awesome. Well, hopefully this will help grow your ministry and get more people turned on to you, for sure.
Yeah, man. Yeah, thank you very much.
Anything else, Jay?
You know what? You have any testimonies that, like, any favorite testimonies about anything that's happened, like, during your time with the magazine and your ministry efforts that you'd like to share? I'm also interested in, like, the rest of your story about just moving here, like, just the differences between, like, Australia and the UK and California. We could close.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, Australia and the United States are actually very similar. It's that we are very Americanized over in Australia. So we grew up with the same programs you guys did. We grew up with the same everything, the only difference is we're so far away and we're in a different country. Plus we are very British as well, because obviously we're an English country where we came from England, kind of thing, which we are still associated with England today. England themselves, very different climate wise, but also too, I find that they're all very not open and outspoken, but they're not I don't know how to put it. They're very to themselves. They're sort of like it takes a while for them to come out of their shell, kind of thing, and they can also be very rigid in the way that they are, like, this is what we do, so this is how we do it, rather than being open to certain other things. They're very it is different, but it is a beautiful country, though. I mean, I do miss England even now, but compared to here and everywhere, it's just home again for me. It's just a different home again. So
awesome.
Which I love it here.
Yeah, so from the testimony angle, I know we have like 2 minutes. So let's talk about the Lord for a second. Like just about the Lord and just how good he is and all that. What is your most rewarding thing for you about being a Christian?
About how he saved me. I mean, it's I was close to the Lord up to about 2001 and 2002, and then I fell away for 14 years. And if people who do know me know, I went through a lot, and I mean, I seriously went through a lot, even through suicidal thoughts and the whole thing, and immense stress, and literally it was literally hell and back. And it wasn't until I literally laid my life down and said, Lord, it's all yours again. And it's just quite funny, because when I was shouting out in myself saying, why is this all happening to me? Why is my life turned upside down? Why is all this kind of thing? And then all it was the still small voice that said, I want you to come back to me. Wow. This is after 14 years.
It's undeniable, right?
Yep.
You know, and it took me another year to be in my wallow to say, what's going on? And the Lord said, didn't I say to you a year ago, I want you to come back to me?
I love it.
And so it was sort of like a bit of a friendly little nudge. All right, then, boom, you know, come on now, you know. And then, yeah, gave my heart back to the Lord and followed him passionately. And yeah, everything's just been going from strength to strength to strength ever since then. So it's, you know, the Lord's, you know, like it's not, you know, I've always had struggles. You know, I still have struggles now. I'm not saying everything's perfect. We still have our struggles, but I have much more peace now.
Amen.
Much more peace with everything, even through the harder times. We still have a lot of peace there. And I still trust in the Lord, and I still have a lot of faith that he, you know, but he is forever faithful, even though I'm not.
Absolutely. Well, man, it's been great. Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing some articles come out about all the new Christian music.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you for having me.
God bless you. God bless
you. Yeah, God bless you guys too.